Hi, I'm Dr. Matt Allender. I'm a clinical veterinarian here at the Brookfield Zoo and professor at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. We're here today to talk about the Illinois Zoological and Wildlife Health Management Residency Program. This is a brand new program and a collaboration between the Brookfield Zoo Chicago Zoological Society, the University of Illinois, and the Forest Preserves of Cook County. The goal of this program is to train individual veterinarians on protecting wild populations and is the first of its kind that meets the rigorous standards of the American College of Zoological Medicine. What started nearly 2 years ago as a brainstorming session between the senior wildlife biologist for the Forest Preserves of Cook County, Chris Anker, Dr. Mike, our director at the Brookfield Zoo, and myself, has developed into this residency program. We're designing a program that we thought could be impactful on our profession and on our field and locally in this area. And we've seen that just in the first year, that's exactly what's happening.
My name is Chris Anker. I'm the senior wildlife biologist at the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. Our relationship goes way back to the inception of the Forest Preserve and the zoo. We are the landholder of the zoo itself, but beyond that, we've worked directly with the zoo on many different projects, and specifically for the wildlife division, it's assistance with health assessments and telemetry work, implantation.
Currently, veterinarians that want to go and specialize after they finish vet school usually do internships that lead to 3-year residency programs in their specialty. Zoological and wildlife medicine is no different. But historically, and up until now, all zoological and wildlife residents have gone through zoological institutions. There are less than 300 board-certified zoo and wildlife veterinarians in the world, and nearly all focus on zoo medicine. In this program, we are training individuals that can go off and be state or federal wildlife veterinarians that protect not just individual animals like at a zoo, but all animals that are on public lands and in the wild. I serve as the primary mentor for this residency, which means I'm in the field with our resident nearly every week. I also do a lot of the logistics and coordinating schedules and help to design and guide the future of the program with the rest of the mentor team. This allows us to create an experience for our resident that gives them the best opportunity for success. Our first resident is Dr. John Winter.
Hi, my name is John Winter, and I'm a first year in Illinois Zoological Wildlife and Health Management Residency Program. I've always been interested in animals and particularly wildlife, and so that's what I took most of my classes in when I was an undergraduate student. I went to veterinary school at the University of Illinois following my undergraduate degree, where I was lucky enough to be able to get involved in a series of wildlife health projects, similar to the type of work I'm doing today. After that, I did several internships to get more advanced training in veterinary medicine, including wild species, and then when I got into this position, I've been learning and being trained on different species ever since. So I get experience in a bunch of different areas, all focused on diagnosing wildlife disease, managing wildlife disease, and recognizing wildlife disease within populations. So the Illinois Zoological and Wildlife Health Management Residency is a collaboration between the Forest Preserves of Cook County, the Brookfield Zoo, and the University of Illinois, focused on wildlife health. These institutions have recognized that wildlife health is directly related to the success of those wild populations, and wildlife disease is directly related to human health and the health of the environment around us. This program was really developed to train wildlife professionals in this field to understand, study, diagnose, and manage wildlife health.
So for decades, the Forest Preserve District of Cook County has been going out and capturing animals and collecting blood and tissue samples and basic measurements of the animals, and doing radio telemetry. So we're following the animals to see what their home ranges are like and what other animals that they're involved with. But with this opportunity of the veterinary resident program, we were able to raise the bar, so to speak. We've been able to add a health assessment along with our basic examination by having the presence of Dr. John Winter and Dr. Matt Allender. And thus we're able to monitor what baseline is, number one, when animals are healthy, but more importantly, when disease does show up on the landscape, we have a foundation to start with to understand what is actually going around in the population and what is going wrong.
Here at the zoo, we've worked with the Forest Preserves of Cook County wildlife biologists for decades, as well as with the University of Illinois. And this residency program is a natural evolution of those relationships. From the outset, we designed the program to be integrated into existing projects within Cook County, and which can include anything from freshwater mussels that are in a river, to coyotes and deer, to turtles and snakes, and to raptors and waterfowl. All of these animals have been examined throughout this past year. Our main goals are to assess wellness in all wild animals in this area to get a baseline health profile for these species. Until this program, really, there's been a smattering of pretty amazing projects that have resulted from the collaboration between the zoo and the forest preserves of Cook County. But they focused on very discrete health issues. What we're working on now with this residency is characterizing the overall health of all populations of wildlife in Cook County.
There are a number of wildlife diseases that we know can have population level impacts on wildlife abundance. In those species, though, we also have a lot of diseases or mass die-offs that we don't know that much about. And so increasing our understanding of how disease can actually affect wild populations, so groups of individuals, really is the basis for understanding what we can do about it to help these populations thrive.
Population health refers to the health of all of the animals of a species in a particular area. Think of it as an ecosystem, and we look at all of those animals and collectively figure out what's going on. We use individual health metrics, so we collect blood, we collect swabs, and we do physical exams on all the individual animals. We can then put this information in a database and get to a point where we can say, is this population healthy or not? And because pathogens and diseases occur naturally in people, domestic animals, and wildlife, it's important to put all of the information together to make the best recommendation for the health of the ecosystem. So we know that there's going to be variation. Our goal, though, is to make sure that that variation falls within acceptable ranges. In the Chicagoland area, we have so many natural spaces. The forest preserves of Cook County have 70,000 acres of space, but they're oftentimes fragmented. And so when forest preserves of Cook County wildlife biologists want to know if one of the fragmented areas is more heavily impacted than another, we can use wildlife health metrics in order to tell. So we can look at birds in both areas and identify whether or not those birds in one population have more diseases, more pathogens, more inflammation than another. Then that informs wildlife biologists on how they're going to improve the habitat for everything. The majority of Dr. Winter's fieldwork takes place in the forest preserves of Cook County. We couldn't do this without their staff.
I get training from zoo professionals on how to work with zoo species practicing clinical medicine. I get experience with forest preserves wildlife biologists who are proficient in field work and how to work with wildlife in a field setting. And then I also get experience from mentors at the University of Illinois for advanced molecular diagnostics, such as running PCR on these different diseases. So I really get a wide range of experience here and get trained in a lot of different areas. We're doing field work pretty much every day of the week, rain or shine, obviously. Anywhere that we are trying to study wildlife health, we need to be where the animals are, so that requires us to be out in the field. Each species that we work with, the health assessment is a little different just based on how we need to get to them and then how we can be safe working with them. A turtle workup usually involves starting early in the morning and either kayaking in waders or hiking through a marsh in waders to get to our different tracks or the different turtles that we can track using radio transmitters. Once we actually have the turtles in hand, we can perform a health assessment right there in the field. So I may be setting up my exam room, if you will, on a log and a tree stump, or I may be working them up in a kayak where there's not much room for anything else other than me and the turtle and a couple sampling supplies. We'll do a full, complete physical exam. We take a couple swabs that we can use to test for different viruses or harmful bacteria. And then we also take a blood sample, just like your dog or cat would get, that we can use to look for evidence of inflammation or infection. After we get our samples, we put the turtles right back where we found them and they're free to go on about their day. And then we gather up all our supplies and head back to the lab to perform all of the blood work that day. Earlier this year, we were doing surveys on snake health in Cook County. So that involved checking different, what we call cover boards, where snakes will like to go under, either to hunt or to rest for the day. The snakes that we're catching, what we're really looking for are signs of disease, specifically snake fungal disease. This is a disease that is detrimental to snake populations nationally And the testing is taking some swab samples so that we can try to diagnose the pathogen using PCR. With the snake surveillance, we're also working with county biologists to get a more updated prevalence of what snake species we have in Cook County. So we're comparing the snakes we're catching today to snakes that we caught here 20 or 30 years ago to see how those species populations are changing over time. After we sample each snake, they go right back to where we found them, either under a coverboard or rock or wherever we captured them.
Forest Preserves of Cook County wildlife biologists
Have set up a number of different kestrel nest boxes, which are a species that could be in decline nationally. The kestrel nest boxes provide an area where American kestrels can go and safely lay their eggs and allow the chicks to have a safe environment to grow up in. During that process, we go and place bands on their legs so we can put identification numbers and know that if we ever catch these kestrels later on, we know exactly where they came from and what year they were born. With that, what we've been doing is taking physical exam measurements, taking swabs, and taking blood to do a full and complete health assessment on the chicks so that we know what the health of the kestrels are. Earlier this year, we also captured a number of fish that use our waterways around Cook County. As part of monitoring what habitat they like to use, we were able to implant radio transmitters in the fish that we can track later on and know exactly what habitat they're using. And during different seasons of the year, as we track these fish and see what kind of habitat they use within the waterways, we can try to create more of that habitat so that they, one, are more successful as a species and can populate more, and two, we have a better idea of what those fish's health are. During the radio transmitter implantation procedures, we were doing the same things that we do on all of our other animals, performing physical exams, taking samples looking for different parasites, and then taking blood samples looking at how well they were doing for the procedure and how well their health is overall. Every day I get to do what I love, which I still feel very lucky to be doing the type of work that I'm doing, and every day we're discovering something new, so it never gets old. So after this program is complete, I would love to continue studying wildlife health and disease in any capacity possible, and especially continue to get field experiences like I am now.
So the Forest Preserve District of Cook County is thrilled to be able to collaborate and cooperate with both the University of Illinois and the Brookfield Zoo in this endeavor.
We all have a shared goal in trying to protect wildlife in Cook County and in Illinois. And we just happened to create a program that in its first year is going to set the standard for how we're going to achieve this success, not only in Illinois, but across the country.